Are you a data nerd when it comes to outdoor activity? Always have to know your mileage, elevation gain, heart rate. Searching for a GPS watch that can tell you all that and more that also has a super impressive battery life? Me too. In that case, allow me to introduce you to the Suunto Vertical, friends, with solar-powered watch face. Yup. This smart GPS watch designed for outdoor enthusiasts and athletes has lots to offer. And yes, it is designed for outdoorsy folks who like to get their adventure on a regular basis. I mean, this thing is loaded with features that would probably be overkill for those who just want to go on a weekly jog around the neighborhood. But if you like to bag peaks, mountain bike far and fast, or take a trail run into the wilderness, well, then this watch just might be for you. So let's get into what makes this watch special. We'll talk features, pros, cons, and more, so stick around. First things first, this one is the stainless steel solar option. There's also a non-solar option and a titanium solar option. It has a solar ring around the face that helps give the battery a boost while you're out there doing your thing, but more on battery life in a minute. Because first I want to talk about the upsides of this watch, starting with the aesthetics, because I actually really like the exterior customizability of this watch, by which I mean in addition to the 3 different face options, there are a whole bunch of watch band colors so you can snag the one that speaks to you. This is the Canyon. As for internal customization, there are a number of watch faces available that are either built into the watch or that you can download for free on the Suunto store, which you'll find within the app. Now, I dig that feature because I'm a very visual person. What's more, you can even choose the color scheme for many of the watch face options. And you can select which widgets launch when you press the upper and lower buttons, depending on what you want fastest access to. For example, my upper button shows me training options, while the lower button takes me to a stopwatch, which I use for weight training sessions. And when I swipe left, I set the watch to show me the weather because well, I'm practically obsessed. Additionally, while it may seem small, I actually really appreciate how quickly the watch face brightens when you rotate your wrist and then darkens again when you turn it back. The Polar Grit X2 we tested was pretty sluggish in that regard, and I found it mildly annoying, but we'll link to that review we did below. Another useful feature I like better about the Suunto Vertical, the auto lock. After a time, the touchscreen on the face locks so you don't accidentally swipe it or select options or what have you. There's also a do not disturb function that not only silences notifications, but also keeps the face from illuminating, so it's a handy feature for bedtime or theater time. That said, if you go ahead and set your regular bedtime and wake up time in the Suunto app, it will automatically turn on Do Not Disturb during those hours, which I appreciate. Speaking of the app, I was super impressed with the amount of info you could dive into in there. I mean, not only is there all the data I could ever want for every workout and sleep session logged, but it also suggests recovery time, tracks steps, heart rate, and offers so many delightfully visual representations of progress and more. Plus, you can use it to download offline maps to your watch, which you can use with up to 95 sport modes. Yeah, 95. Now, that's absolutely going to be overkill for like 99% of us, but you can choose which ones actually show up on your watch menu. So if you mostly trail run or mountain bike, you don't have to scroll through options like mermaiding or cricket. Those are both actual options, yes. And no, I don't know what mermaiding is. Is it when you put on a mermaid tail and go snorkeling? Is it just like laying around on rocks, tossing your hair and looking cute while you sing about forks? I don't know. I mean, either way, if you're into it, I support you. Plus, you can set up your tracking so your activities sync directly with your favorite apps like Strava. It's too easy. But moving on. This watch also has a pretty impressive battery life. Suunto states it's about 85 hours with the solar functionality, but honestly, in practice, it seems like more. I think I charged this thing once a week max, and that's when I was recording 1 to 3 hour sessions a few times a week. Now, The solar feature doesn't seem to be strong enough to fully charge the watch on its own, but it does seem to prolong the life of the battery. For example, I set the watch in the sun for an hour and it only charged it about 1%. But I still wouldn't hesitate to leave my charger at home for, say, a 3-day backpacking trip where I'd be tracking probably for up to 6 hours a day. As for GPS accuracy, it seems to be pretty spot on. It does use a dual frequency system, so that helps. And frankly, training data seems to be more accurate than other watches we've tested, especially in the calories burned department. For example, the Polar Grit X2 suggested I'd burned 500 calories or something in 30 minutes of mountain biking, and that's just ridiculous for a person of my size. But the Vertical seemed to give more realistic results that mesh with other online calorie calculators. The sleep data I'm still on the fence about, but most of these watches use motion detection to log that info, which doesn't seem terribly accurate to me, a person who moves around a lot in her sleep. So I'm probably not going to trust what my watch says about how I slept, just honestly. As for other features, you can control music through the watch when it's connected to your phone and a pair of headphones. Now, I recommend the Suunto Sonic bone-conducting headphones, because they're dope. We'll drop a link to that review we did below. Finally, I dig the simplicity and functionality of the buttons. There are only 3, and it's usually pretty clear which ones to use. Let's just say the learning curve was very short. And I do appreciate the information showcased in training mode, by which I mean on the main screen you see when recording a session, you can see your mileage, the amount of time you've been moving, your elevation change when doing things like hiking, your distance, and yes, time of day, which isn't a given on every watch, so that's all a plus. Then you can click or swipe through screens if you want maps or other data like weather. The watch can also send you weather alerts and show you how long you have till sunset, by the way, which is pretty rad. But this watch isn't perfect. I mean, nothing is. So let's get to the cons. Now, while in some ways the Suunto Vertical is highly customizable, in other ways it lags a bit. When it comes to the watch faces, for example. See all these little side info bits? Suunto calls them complications for some reason, which seems like a weird choice to me, but whatever. And while you can certainly change those complications up, depending on the watch face you choose, you actually have limited options. For example, one face may only let you choose from options like altitude, moon phase, or variable heart rate, but not battery level or number of steps taken. So depending on what you want to see on your watch face the second you look down, you may have to do some trial and error to find a watch face that suits that you actually like the look of. Not a huge deal, just something to note. Additionally, while some watches let you swipe left or right to get to your most used widgets, the Vertical only offers one swipe, so choose carefully what you want fastest access to. I wanted weather because, again, obsessed. So that's what I have it set to. Then let's talk about price. The Suunto Vertical actually has a pretty comparable price point at $629. It's $70 more for the solar option, and the titanium solar option is obviously a bit more than that. So honestly, it's pricey. Like I said earlier, it's designed for mountain athletes, but not more so than other watches in its class. For comparison, the Garmin Fenix Solar starts at $800. Another thing I found mildly irritating, but again, not a deal breaker, is how often I have to sync my watch with my phone using the Suunto app. I have to at least once a day. However, unlike the Polar watch that I more often than not had to completely restart, all I have to do with the Suunto is open the app and it syncs in a snap. So that's something. As for charging, like most other GPS and smartwatches, the Suunto Vertical does come with its own dedicated and highly specific charging cable, which you know I hate. I mean, the unnecessary e-waste, the mess of cables required to power all this stuff. Can we just get everything powered via USB-C already? Or at the very least, wireless charging? And like many other performance and outdoor-focused GPS watches, this one doesn't offer wireless functionality like tap to pay or anything like that. So if that's what's most important to you in a smartwatch, you may want to look elsewhere. But other than that, I have very few complaints. And yeah, Most of them that I do are fairly tangential. And frankly, even if the Suunto Vertical is a bit on the pricey side, it's a solid watch, it's well designed, looks great, and functions super well. So if you're gonna invest in a GPS sport watch, you should definitely take a look at this one. Honestly. Again, we'll link to it in the description. Then you should check out these other videos. Right after you like and subscribe, of course. Then track your next hike, brag about your O2 levels with all your friends, and wander on.